This news is funded by viewers like you. Please support our work at democracynow.org/give. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Press freedom groups are condemning the Israeli military for raiding and shutting down Al Jazeera's Ramallah office in the occupied West Bank. The raid was broadcast live on TV Sunday morning. Heavily armed Israeli troops were seen entering the office and confiscating equipment while ordering the office closed for at least 45 days. This is an Israeli soldier confronting Al Jazeera's West Bank bureau chief, Walid al-Amari.
Good evening. There's an order from the court to shut down Al Jazeera for 45 days. I ask you to take all the cameras and leave the office now.
Should we all leave?
This is an order.
Can I see it, please? This is the order which was brought to us by this office and his military forces. The order says that it is an order to shut down the office of Al Jazeera channel for 45 days. And this is a military decision from the commander of the central area and the Israeli military. It asks us to leave this office immediately and to take our personal belongings and our cameras.
During the raid, Israeli troops also tore down a poster of Shireen Abu Akleh, the Al Jazeera journalist, the Palestinian American, who was fatally shot by Israeli troops May 11th, 2022, when she was outside the Jenin refugee camp. Reporters Without Borders responded to this weekend's raid with a statement denouncing, quote, Israel's relentless assault, unquote, and repeating its call for the repeal of the Israeli law that allows the government to shut down foreign media. UN Secretary General spokesperson Staffan Dujarric said Sunday the UN's deeply concerned about Israel's closure of Al Jazeera's offices in the occupied West Bank.
We're very concerned anytime, anywhere in the world, media offices get closed, especially in conflict areas. The journalists are the eyes and ears of the world, and they need to be able to do their job free from harassment or any other type of impediment.
For more, we go to Doha, where we're joined by Mohamed Moawad, managing editor of Al Jazeera. Welcome back to Democracy Now! Can you lay out exactly what happened on Sunday morning, Mohamed?
Thank you, Sammy, for having me. It's glad to be back with you. When we last spoke in May, when the Israeli government took the decision of shutting down our offices in Jerusalem and the Palestinian and Tel Aviv, I told you that the situation is ambiguous and the law itself upon which the Israeli government took the decision is ambiguous as well. It could be weaponized against us anytime when the Israeli government feel that the intimidation, a step of intimidation isn't enough, they can go further, escalate the intimidation process. So that's exactly what happened. Our bureau chief, Walid al-Amari, was live on air, reporting on the exchange of strikes in Lebanon between Hezbollah and the Israeli forces. Suddenly, the Israeli soldiers, these were not ordinary officers, but rather, a fully equipped and ready for combat zone officers and soldiers. And they I say invade, not storm, they invaded the office and they spoke to Walid al-Amari, who stood very strong against them, defending his right for freedom of the press. And he told them, why you are here? This is not a combat zone. This is a space for journalism. They said that there is an order to shut down the office, and that's a win. That the whole situation was chilling for us because, this is a dedicated space for journalism. This is an office for reporters, for journalists. This is not a combat zone. They then went on to move from corner to corner in the office as if it's a combat zone, and then they tore down our late colleague Shireen Abu Akleh's picture from the wall. They stole all equipments from inside the office, despite the fact that the order itself that was handed to Walid al-Amari did not mention anything about equipments. And then they went farther to follow our colleagues downstairs, where they continued reporting about the incident. And they took the mic from Walid al-Omari and said, "You're not allowed to work here, go home." But, you know, the whole situation here is not shutting down an office, is not a decision by the Israeli government that was executed by the army, a fully equipped army, but rather an invasion to the very principle of the press freedom around the world.
Can you explain how the Israeli military has jurisdiction here? Your Ramallah bureau, which is in charge of the whole West Bank coverage of Al Jazeera, is an Area A, an area marked as being under Palestinian control in the Oslo Accords. So what legal jurisdiction did Israel have to come in with their heavily armed soldiers?
That's why, Amy, it's very difficult for us to find a way to challenge this legally, because really the whole situation is ambiguous. They say this is emergency law. This is according to the defense minister of Israel, an order by him to the army to enter the West Bank and shut down an office, which does not, does not include the power of the Israeli army in this area, because it's an area that is under the jurisdiction A, which is mainly for the Palestinian Authority to decide about. But Israel has no right to kill over 160 journalists in Gaza. I mean, and they've done it, and they continue to do it. They've killed 3 colleagues at Al Jazeera. They continue to commit atrocities against journalists. So it wasn't surprising. By the way, it was the least decision, the least action they have taken against us, because we've lost colleagues. But at the same time, it was a show of force, a show of intimidation to show journalists around the globe that what's happening in Gaza and the West Bank isn't allowed to be reported about, and that the coverage of Al Jazeera is an enemy for the Israeli government, despite the fact that we haven't and we're not weaponizing at all, and we're not going to do that. We're not weaponizing our platform, despite the fact that we are being intimidated. We have lost colleagues. Just before I come on air, we've been airing the Israeli forces press conference, and we continue to do that, despite the fact that the Israeli government shut down our offices in Israel and the Palestinian territories to try to delegitimize our coverage and say that Al Jazeera is a one-sided coverage. You don't operate there. But we continue to cover. We continue to make sure that we give voice to the voiceless, and at the same time make sure that it's both narratives kind of coverage.
One of the things you do on Al Jazeera when reporters are reporting on Israel, since you're banned from Israel, is repeatedly say that. That's unlike U.S. networks that don't say, when they're reporting on Gaza, that the Israeli military prevents them from going into Gaza. Talk about that editorial decision that you've made, as you have reporters in Amman and other places saying, we are not allowed to be in Israel as we report this right now, and what these images mean that you're broadcasting that others don't.
This is exactly what we should be talking about, Amy. Shutting down our Al Jazeera's office is the headline, but the name of the game is preventing journalists from doing their job, either in Gaza, in the West Bank. They want us to report remotely. They don't want us to be in the front lines. And that's crystal clear. I mean, the whole international journalistic community should be talking about one topic when they see a journalist killed in Gaza. They should be talking about one topic when they see an office shut down in Gaza or in West Bank or in Israel. The one topic is no international journalist was allowed to enter Gaza to cover the war there, to give voice to the voiceless, which is at the core of this and the principle, the main principle of this profession. We know international journalists, even the international journalistic community is not placing pressure on Israel to allow their colleagues to get into Gaza to cover. Remember the Arab Spring, when so many American and Western journalists challenged the bureaucracy of the authoritarian regimes to go cover from Tahrir Square or from Tunisia or from Syria or from Libya. Right now, no one is placing that pressure. And it's really, really annoying, because we should be defending the freedom of the press. We should be defending the right to know what's happening there. We should not shy from what's happening in Gaza and be part of this concealing that the Israeli government is trying to do, to conceal what's happening in Gaza and the West Bank and the atrocities being committed. They just want us to report remotely, and we will continue to remind the world and the journalistic community that this is happening and that you should unite to place pressure on the Israeli government to give the right for journalists to enter Gaza, even after a possible ceasefire. This should be the case to uncover what's really happened there. I remind you that we still have 6 correspondents reporting from Gaza, and that's something that we are committed to. We are committed to give voice to the voiceless. An office is nothing for us. We will continue the coverage. We asked our colleagues to stay safe in the West Bank right now until we figure out the legal procedure, because as I told you, Amy, the situation is ambiguous. We can't really know on what basis that decision was taken, but we expected it.
Mohamed Moawad, I want to thank you for being with us, managing editor of Al Jazeera, speaking to us from Al Jazeera's headquarters in Doha, Qatar. Democracy Now! Is funded by viewers like you. Please give today at democracynow.org/give.